So this last video related to the more general operations management before we dive into the different areas of operations management looks at key trends. So as we're going through our different processes that are involved in operations, we need to be cognizant of some of the key trends in operations. So let's just take a look at them more generally here. So the first is e-commerce. All right, so e-commerce is what? That's where businesses can sell to other businesses or businesses can sell to customers online. So what we have businesses ordering supplies from their suppliers electronically, or maybe you're ordering things from Amazon. Okay, that's all e-commerce. So if we think about Canada itself, what percentage of Canadians do you think use the internet? What? Isn't it 100%? Well, if we look at Canada, about 82% of Canadians use the internet. Okay, what percent of Canadians shop online? Well, about 56% of Canadians shop online. How many small businesses, okay, so businesses with 50 or less employees, how many of them use e-commerce? So they sell products or services online. Well, the number is 17%. Most small businesses don't have much of an online presence. They may have a website or a Facebook page, but very few of them actually provide goods and services being able to pay or book online. Now, COVID-19 has had a radical change on this because with the world shut down, a lot of companies couldn't do business, and so they are frantically trying to figure out how to have e-commerce, how to have that internet presence and be able to both communicate with their customers and provide product through the mail or through delivery systems and online orders in order to survive the pandemic. So the number right now is very small, only 17% of small and medium businesses, but we may see a radical change in that spurred on by the pandemic. It also is an opportunity for the operations of your company to take advantage of the fact that your competitors may not have that online presence. The second piece here in terms of key trends is the use of technology. And we're going to talk later this semester about computer integrated manufacturing. CIM. So computer integrated manufacturing is not only where you have automated the production process, but the computer is actually taking in information about orders. It's determining when the production should start. It's sending information to the production line, and then robots are doing assembly or manufacturing. So it's more than just having computer-controlled machines do assembly, but it's a greater system where computers and machines talk to other computers and machines in order to manufacture a product. The third trend we have here is globalization. So the more e-commerce we have, right now you're competing with companies in other countries. We also have these supply chains where companies, their suppliers and their customers may be in different countries. So we have to consider the impact of globalization. So for example, here we have hourly wages in US dollars. So how would this impact operations if we consider globalization? Right, so for example, how do you decide what country to manufacture your product in? Well, you look, of course, at where your customers are and your materials are, but if it can be done somewhere else, you also consider the wages that you would have to pay your workers. And for most companies, the largest expense is the employees. So where do you think Canada is on this list? Well, if we look at it in US dollars, the average hourly wage for Canadians is $24.78, which puts us right here just above the US in terms of pay. So that's going to impact where you manufacture your product. And what we've seen is that manufacturing of cars has moved to places like China and Mexico, where it's a lot cheaper than where they used to be produced, which is the US and Canada. The other thing we have to consider is trade. So here we have on this graph the trade as a percentage of gross domestic product. The more trade that we see worldwide, the longer the supply chains. So when we talk about a supply chain, we're talking about who you sell your product to and who you get your supplies from. So for example, if you're the Gap and you're selling t-shirts, there may be a wholesaler or distributor you get your products from, there's the manufacturer, and there may be a number of other people in between. You may have logistics companies that are helping to move. You may have warehouses. So the more international globalization, the longer the supply chain gets. The more companies are involved, from the person who makes the raw materials to the person who sells the final product to the customer. And so as we look at countries like Canada, where our trade is 61% of our GDP, we are doing a lot of business with people in other countries. And so we have very long supply chains because we are importing in raw materials, we are exporting out final goods, and we are expanding into other markets by finding distributors and retailers who can carry our products. So now we have a lot more companies that are involved in our operations. And it's important that we manage all of the supply chain, because if there is poor quality, so when we hear about Nike shoes being prepared in sweatshops, and we hear about people who make chips for Apple products, working so hard in slave conditions, they jump off of roofs. Well, the factory who creates the product, who might be having the issues, is way off in some other country, and we don't even know the name of the company. The retailer, the company that actually works with the customer, is the one who is going to be impacted by it. It hurts their reputation. If there are recalls, it is hurting the entire supply chain in terms of cost and reputation. So we need to manage the supply chain both to reduce cost, to increase quality, and to assure that we have a positive view in the minds of the consumers. So we're going to look later this semester at how you manage that supply chain. And remember that the trend right now is longer and longer supply chains because of that globalization. The last trend we want to talk about here is sustainability and the focus on zero waste. So we're going to talk later this semester about closed loop supply chains. So one of the industries that produces the most amount of waste is the manufacturing of clothes. So if you think about all the dye and water, and then the fact that when clothes is ripped up, no longer cool, thrown away, it ends up in the landfill. So what can a company or an industry do so that it doesn't produce all that waste? How can it reuse its materials, recycle its materials, find new homes for its products after it is no longer wanted by the current customer? Can it be refurbished so that it's wanted by somebody else? So we're going to look this semester at sustainability and how closed loop supply chains work and some of the companies that are doing this. This is a new area in operations and one that many industries are starting to focus on.